Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. Yellowstone expanded its reach to a broader audience when it premiered on CBS, a major network, on September 17. Previously, it had been airing on the Paramount network. However, this transition to network television has necessitated substantial alterations to the series. As reported by Country Living, the new broadcast of Yellowstone features an edited version that removes some of the more extreme and offensive content that had initially characterized the show's edgy style. The original version of the series carried a TVMA rating due to nudity, profanity, and violence, compelling the creation of a milder rendition to meet network censorship standards. Despite Yellowstone's immense popularity, CBS notes that a substantial 80% of its viewers had not previously experienced the show, according to Variety. As broadcast television has a significantly larger audience than niche cable channels, that means that many more viewers may ultimately see the neutered version of the show than its original uncensored edit. In addition to worry about standard issues around offensive language, nudity, and violence, broadcast standards also limit how drug and alcohol use can be portrayed on television. A CBS representative confirmed to Country Living that Yellowstone had undergone edits in order to be acceptable to air on CBS. However, they claimed that the cuts were only minor and would not jeopardize the integrity of the original show, which is largely written and directed by showrunner and creator Taylor Sheridan. Films and TV shows that have to censor curse words and other offensive terms often undergo automated dialogue replacement, or ADR. Confusingly, the process is not automated and requires an actor, ideally the original star, to go into a sound booth to re-record dialogue that can be dubbed over the lines that need to be jettisoned. Instead of that common technique, CBS will merely be muting inappropriate words rather than dubbing over them, though it's unclear if that decision was a stylistic choice or if the original actors were unavailable to fix their dialogue or if the network didn't want to pay them to return. In addition to the easy-to-miss muted words, CBS will also requiring some visual changes as moments of extreme on-screen violence. Overly sexual scenes will also need to be toned down. Because it originally airs on cable, Yellowstone features occasionally nudity as well, which will need to be excised completely to pass the broadcast standards. Despite the changes, the hit show will still likely be too adult for many younger viewers, and it now has a TV-14 DSLV rating for its CBS broadcasts, indicating that it has suggestive dialogue, foul language, sexual situations or actions, and intense violence. The Yellowstone series premiere on Sunday will give fans and curious viewers a glimpse of how much the series has been edited, and subsequent episodes are set to air on Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on CBS. However, the network will skip airing the show on Sunday nights, featuring an NFL doubleheader, and it notes that the time may also to work around football broadcasts. Shortly before Yellowstone began its new run on CBS, it was reported that its star Kevin Costner, who will not be returning for the second half of Season 5, and his representatives spent much of his downtime over the summer amid the ongoing DGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes in negotiation with Paramount and showrunner Taylor Sheridan to get him back on the show. According to Puck News, the 68-year-old actor, who has been engaged in a brutal divorce from Christine Baumgartner in recent months, even wanted to stick around on the show for a potential 6th and 7th season if Sheridan, who has written every episode of the show since Season 3, was willing to give him another chance. But Costner's whirlwind negotiations reportedly came to nothing after he made a series of demands on a disastrous phone call with Sheridan. The deal-breaking request was allegedly that he be given veto power over Sheridan's scripts, something the showrunner couldn't abide by, though Costner also reportedly has a moral death clause in his Yellowstone contract that severely limits the way his character John Dutton could be killed off. Earlier this year, Costner had been negotiating with Paramount over his requests to reduce his work schedule for Yellowstone Season 5B, as he was set to direct the first installment of his 4-part Western film series, Horizon, around the same time. Costner, who has now finished principal production on that film, had also requested more control over scripts, particularly in regards to his character's arc. However, 101 Studios, which produces Yellowstone, and Paramount, its distributor, ended the negotiations in May of this year and simply announced that Costner would not be returning for Season 5B. Instead, the series will reportedly transition to a newly titled continuation, with Matthew McConaughey joining the fold in a new lead role. After Costner was shut out of the second half of Season 5, his producing partner Rod Blake got in touch with Paramount Media Networks and MTV Entertainment Studios' Keys Hill Edgar to request an urgent meeting in New York, according to 2 sources. Lake made it clear that Costner desperately wanted to finish his original run on the series and to give fans what they were clamoring for, though he reportedly also saw his return to Yellowstone as a way to promote his Horizon films, which he made for Warner Bros. Lake apparently made some progress with Hill Edgar and convinced him to get Sheridan on the phone with Costner to iron out their differences. Sheridan had already written scripts for Season 5B that wrote out Costner's character, but he was game to rewrite them after the strike if he and the star could work out an arrangement. The two reportedly chatted on the phone in early July, but the call soured their already strained relations. Costner, who was described as speaking in a friendly tone, reportedly asked for more money and less shooting time. However, it was his demand to see Sheridan's scripts in advance and to either approve or potentially veto them that got the writer and director's blood boiling. Although Sheridan has been criticized for allegedly spreading himself too thin with multiple shows for Paramount and Paramount Plus that he largely writes, directs, and showruns himself, he wasn't willing to cede that creative control to his star. Paramount reportedly sided with Sheridan and ended the discussions shortly after the counterproductive phone call. However, sources claimed that Paramount Media Network's CEO, Chris McCarthy, was still open to finding a way for Costner to return, and he hoped that as the writers and actors' strikes drag on, they would be able to come to an agreement. However, Costner lost any goodwill at the network when he in court during a divorce hearing on September 1 that he might sue for wages he had expected for Season 5B, but sources claimed that he had already been paid for both halves of Season 5 and that he may have been referring to 2 more potential seasons that he had hoped to film afterward. Costner reportedly believed that Paramount was in breach for offering him a package to stick around for Seasons 6 and 7 backing out, though a source close to the production claimed that the studio had officially ended its offer. Costner's team now apparently believes that Sheridan's plans to kill off his character may violate his moral death contract provision. The clause states that his character, John Dutton, cannot be killed off in any way that brings shame to his character's family, which would presumably also embarrass the JFK star. However, sources close to the show disputed that Sheridan would run afoul of the clause, and they said that Costner had never read any details on how the showrunner planned to dispatch Dutton. Although the moral death clause was described as being an outlier by Paramount, other film stars have previously tried to ensure that their characters are seen in the most positive light possible. Back in 2019, the Wall Street Journal reported that Fast and Furious series stars Vin Diesel, Dwayne Johnson, and Jason Statham all have clauses in their contracts requiring that any on-screen fights they have not be too lopsided in favor of the villain, and filmmakers aren't allowed to show the actors being severely injured, presumably for fear of hurting their pride and macho image. Despite its eagerness to retain Costner on board, Paramount seems to have become accustomed to the thought of a series without John Dutton. According to viewer studies the network apparently did during the course of the show's run, Costner and his character were hot topics of conversation on social media, but by later seasons, they had significantly diminished, which also happened to coincide with the addition of more supporting characters to the ensemble melodrama. Matthew McConaughey is apparently prepared to join the cast despite not having signed a formal contract for the new show, which presents another barrier for Costner to return.